Hi everyone. This is going to be, I think, a quick video, but I've said that before. It's Professor LaCour, and this is lesson 12, where we're going to talk about reflecting and recalibrating and thinking about where you are now. So things that I want you to think about as we work through this are the career journey and design thinking models are circular. It's not a line, it's a circle, which means that just as you get to the end and you see the end in sight, it's time to start. It's better to start thinking of this as just a pattern that you just keep repeating throughout your career. And like everything else, as you get better at it, you get to start innovating and trying new things. You want to start testing out your initial prototype of who you're going to be in the job market. Okay? And I want you to start thinking about your assumptions about your strengths and your weaknesses, the opportunities in front of you, and the barriers or even threats to you, and this is called SWOT, to gain new insights. So let's talk about this. So, some of the things that you want to do as we get towards the end of this course is I want you to think about how valuable reflection is for learning and growth. Knowing stuff and being able to tell me things is not nearly as valuable as being able to do things. But doing things takes trial and error. And it's not enough to say yes or no, I was successful or I wasn't. It's more important to say I was successful when I did this, or I was not successful when I did that. Reflection is really a key part of learning. And although you might not think of it that way, exams, papers, those are actually reflective devices that make your learning visible. In the real world, you're often not going to have to take a test. You're going to be doing work, but it's not going to always work out the way you'd hoped. And you're going to want to build in time for reflection, okay, and how it's going to affect your learning and growth. Much of your actual learning of what you've done, moving out into everything you know, happens after the actions are done. I want you to look at your e-portfolio. Look at how it's coming along. Make sure that you have everything in there, okay? Because you want to be able to refer back to it. It's also helpful if you meet with career services for assistance because you have these things already done and they're in one place. I want you to complete a SWOT analysis. A little more on that later. Okay? I'd like you to consider muddy class material. I'm not going to put a new discussion up because I know everybody is struggling based on the emails I'm getting. So more work probably is not the answer here. I am going to ask you to reach out to me and let me know what things you would like to go over again. And we do need to talk about the SIRS. So remember, one of the core ideas, we started the class with this, we'll end with it as well, is that job satisfaction, and that is your goal. You're not looking to love your job. You're looking to do work that satisfies you and makes you feel good about yourself and about your contribution to the world. And it is found at the intersection of your values, what you're good at, and where there is a market. That's the sweet spot right there in the middle. Okay. We want to achieve balance and flow. Remember that flow state is that state of where you're working and you feel like you're completely aware, you're completely in the moment, using everything. So this idea, right, of flow states and adaptive learning really comes down to that you're deeply absorbed in what you do. It is not in your comfort zone. You're pushing and stretching yourself. Not so far that you feel, like you're going to fall apart or you're going to fall at all, but where you're stretching. Okay? It does take grit and deliberate practice. You have to be a little bit stubborn to keep working this way. And because we're not always that good at pushing ourselves, we want to have steps, specific steps that we run to get to this state, and I think of this in terms of reading strategies. We all know how to read. We can sit down and read anything, but we may not get what we need from it. On the other hand, if I was to teach you a reading strategy, I don't know, like SQ3R, it's a set of steps that you could practice over and over again, especially in the beginning moments when you aren't sure of how to get started. Okay? And remember that real learning takes rest and reflection to integrate and translate your knowledge to new areas. I know that we tend to cram the textbook and run into the test, but afterwards, do you actually remember anything? Did you learn anything? The world expects us to have learned things, not just pass tests. And so you want to start building in this rest and reflection piece. I can't stress it enough, and I know that it's probably something you're going to need some practice on. So let's talk a little bit about SWOT analysis. So SWOT's a tool. It's used in strategic business planning, but we can use it too. By using this very simple diagram, you see it right there on the left. It has 4 boxes, okay, 2 columns. So the first column is internal, and the second column is external. So the internal are the things within you, and the external are the things outside of you. Okay? We want to identify your strengths, and you want to be really, really honest about this. Oh, look, there's a typo. Sorry about that, guys. Ignore it. But I know if I re-record this, I'm going to make it a lot longer. So strengths are those things that you bring with you. They're the skills, the knowledge, the values, the experiences you've had that make you who you are. Your weaknesses are where you have things that are gaps in your learning, or maybe you have things that no matter how much you've tried, you just don't do as well, but yet you've come up with adaptations to make yourself capable of getting your work done. You want to be really honest about them. And what I've noticed is that people are a little weird. Sometimes we can pick out some simple strengths, and sometimes we can pick out lots and lots of weaknesses. But this is something that you do over days, not minutes. So maybe you were to write it out now and then check it later and update it. Maybe tomorrow you have some new ideas. Again, that reflection and giving your mind some time to process is really valuable. Now, on the other side, we have the external things that are going to affect us. So opportunities. Everyone does not have the same opportunities. They are affected by your networking, by your location, by your major, by your experiences. The opportunities that show up in front of us, they come from outside of us, based often on things that we've done. So I want you to really think of the opportunities you have, okay? And that comes back to internships and job, applications, but it also comes back to where do you go? I know right now we don't go anywhere. But typically, what does your life look like? And then we have threats and barriers. What things can prevent us, external to ourselves, can prevent us from what we need? Right? So I want you to really sit down, maybe even today, jot these 4 things down, and then I want you to continue to add to them. Okay? I don't want this to be a quick process, but rather a reflective one. Okay? So some of the things that might help you with this, okay? Identifying your strengths and weaknesses. Think about the classes and activities that have made you want to manage the challenge. Think of a class that was tough for you, but where you were like, I am going to do this. Think of the classes where you've seen improvement in your work. Okay? The ones where you've put the time in and you realized it's paying off, okay, or paid off. Think about the classes and activities that inspire you, okay? Because these are where you're going to start thinking about where you're really learning the best and the strengths that you have. Okay? These are just some words that might help you out. Just some of the critical and analytical thinking and problem-solving skills. And when you want to write these down, you might want to talk about analysis and applications and communication. You might want to use words like employ, evaluate, examine, lots of E-words. Okay? Identify and understand. These are all, words that can be really helpful when you're writing. Okay? Remember that we talked about the 8 career-specific skill sets for the arts and sciences. Okay? We talked about the different skills, that you might want to bring with you. Okay? We had this discussion earlier too. Remember, job searching, purposes, your needs, your drivers. These are all things that I want you to go back and revisit some of our earlier videos because they're going to help you think this process through. Now, opportunities, threats, and barriers. What do your weaknesses tell you about opportunities for growing important skills? You might realize that if all your weaknesses in one area are, in one area, you might have actually been avoiding learning that area. And that's valuable insight. Okay? Think about how you can improve these things. Think about how you can improve your networking and your experience. And think about the things that are in your way and preventing you from moving forward. So you do have an activity quote for SWOT, and it's up on Canvas. And this is actually, it's not a filler. We don't put fillers in this class, by the way. Every activity in this class is there to help you think through one more piece of your career. And that's why we want you to build a portfolio and keep copies of this because they are going to be helpful to you in the future, not just today. If you look back at them 6 months from now, you'll see these things differently. One last warning. It is course evaluation survey time. You will be getting an email that asks you about this class. Please take these seriously. Okay? Remember that these are tools that are used to evaluate your instructor, but there are questions in there that are on the instructor, but they're also about the course material, assignments, and activities that we have. Okay? The university takes these very seriously when they look at how we're doing things. So you want to sit down, and I know that's hard right now because we are online and this is so different than what we expected. But I'd like you to take your time with these and fill them out honestly and productively, remembering that the goal is, to get better at things over time. Okay? And I know that I take these seriously, and I read the comments, and I look at these scores, and they're important. By the way, your faculty can't tell you who filled them out. We just get a composite. All right, so our last thing here in this video is I do want you to let me know what we need clarification on. I was originally going to put a poll in here, and I still might do that on our Canvas site, but I want to see how everybody's doing with material. I know there's been a lot of email this week. Okay, so with that, I'm going to end this video, but let me know what you'd like some clarification on as we move into our last few assignments.